I'm just going to hit record here. So I will keep most of you muted, and I'm going to leave some time at the end for Q&A. And then we can all kind of have some time just to chat and catch up. So we'll save questions till the end. And if you haven't used Zoom too much before, just know that there is a chat box in the bottom. So get that chat going. If you have things to contribute, let's make this conversational. You probably don't want to hear me talk at you for the next 50 minutes or so. So use the chat box. I've been on so many Zoom calls in the last 2 to 3 days. And part of the fun is actually seeing the dialogue in the chat box as we go along. So why don't you go ahead and actually just find the chat box now and just introduce yourself. Who are you? What's your name? And where are you tuning in from? I see Elka has found the chat box. Amazing. Love it. Love it. Thank you for getting that started. Awesome. So I'll let you guys go ahead with that and I'll kick off now. I'm just going to go see who I can mute so I don't hear too much background noise. So I see you've all cut out of your workday early. It's 4:30, so technically you should still be on the clock, right? Just kidding. I feel like all rules are going to be broken over the coming weeks, so there are no rules. All right, so welcome everyone. It is March 26th, and this is the first of potentially many calls, which I am titling The Visionary Way. And I have just been absorbing and thinking and trying to digest the current events and everything that is going on, and really coming back to that phrase of what is this here to teach us, and how are we meant to evolve and pivot everything in our lives in a time like this, because it's definitely a time to really carefully consider our life, our health routines, our relationships, our work, the vision that we have for our life. And so I'm sure, like me, many of you have been experiencing some interesting conversations in your head over the past little while. So that's what we're going to dive into. I'm going to keep the first half of this call really more generic to everybody. So whether you're a business owner or not, I want to share content that's really going to elevate your mindset in a time like this and just make you challenge the routines, the habits, the rituals that you have going on, and how we can really use this as an opportunity to pivot. And then in the second part of the call, I will be shifting gears and chatting a little bit more about what to do as a business owner, or even if you're an aspiring business owner, or if that content intrigues you, please stay on for that, because of course, for small businesses, this has been just a manic time of really considering what we can do the same and what we need to change really quickly to keep up with the times. And at the end, I'll leave some time for Q&A. And then I also have a couple people on the call today who are going to be chatting and sharing some of their wisdom with you. So at one point, I'll open the mic up to Melissa, who is a personal finance expert. Cannot wait for you guys to hear from her just about how to best manage your money in a time like this. I think that's applicable to all of us, right? If that thought hasn't crossed your mind, then I want to have your bank account. But Melissa's going to share a little bit on that. And I'm also going to ask Shannon to come on at one point, and she's just going to chat about how community can be strengthened in a time like this. And we'll keep it as a really casual conversation. So let's get started. You might have seen that on my Facebook wall, I posted something last night, and I just asked for one word that you would use to describe the past 7 days. And I found it so interesting that it's a 50-50 split at this point of people using really scary, panicked words. And then there's this whole other demographic of people who are using really inspiring and enlightening words. And it just goes to show as a reminder that we are all processing what's going on in a totally different way, and that is okay. And to be so respectful, and I know all of you are, of how people are dealing with this, right? Some people want to pull back. Some people want to push forward. Some see it as an opportunity, and others see it as the end of the world. The best we can do is continue to support one another and love on one another and check in with each other with a simple text message, because again, we're all digesting this in very different ways. And that really comes as a result of our past life experiences and, what we've done to manage ourselves, our mindsets, our life in the past little while. And so you can find this on my Facebook page if you are curious to read through. The responses keep on going and going, which I found really fascinating. I want you all to just take a minute to think of, what do you want your word for the coming 7 days to be? Knowing that you may be going into another week of parenting at home while working full time. Knowing that you might be going into another week of quarantining because you were traveling and you can't leave your home right now. Knowing that you might be going into your first week of unemployment for some of you. So maybe choosing a word to guide you through that. Right now, everyone has a bit of a different situation, but we do have a choice in how we respond to the situations. And I'm kind of a word geek. I love choosing a word of the year. But my word of the year is not actually relevant to what's going on right now, okay? And for some of you, you did your vision boarding, you did your goal setting. Well, we're actually in a time where that may not apply. And so it is so vital right now to just re-examine, like, whether it's a goal or a vision that you have or a word that guides you, choose something different. Because in this type of crisis, I'll call it, what you had imagined for your 2020 may not be applicable. And you can come back to that vision board, but in these times, I want you to choose something different, okay? So I'm just gonna leave you with that exercise. If anyone wants to type their word into the chat box, I would love to hear it. Something, maybe you're looking for peace, and that's gonna be your word. Whereas in maybe in January, your word was like action. So you might be feeling a little different than 2 months ago, and that's okay. So let's see what those words might be to guide you. Melissa says healthy. I love that. Like, this is time to re-examine our health. We've got focus. Yes, this is a great time to refocus. Nourish, grounded. I love that. Shift. Yes, we're going to talk about shifting in a moment. Connected. Acceptance, commit. So good. Maybe you can find inspiration in each other's words as well. I'm really seeing this time as a gift, and I definitely hope you all are as well. I was listening to a podcast that I really love called the Mind Your Business podcast. Some of you might also listen to it. And he brought up this book called Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. And I found it really ironic because I actually signed this book out from the library 3 weeks ago before the library closed. And I started reading it and I got into it and I did learn a lot from it. But I didn't end up finishing the book. And I brought it on my vacation with me, came home, and I can't return it to the library right now because the library is shut. So this is the one book that I have at this moment. And then I was tuning into a podcast the other day, and they were basically comparing this book called Outwitting the Devil to this whole coronavirus crisis. And first of all, I found it ironic that that's the one book that I'm stuck with at this moment, because that's what I had signed out. But basically, the teachings from this book by Napoleon Hill, who is a author and philosopher from the early 1900s, he talks about this concept in the book. Maybe some of you could even explain it better than I can, but he talks about this concept of being a drifter in life. And to summarize it quite quickly and concisely for you, we don't want to be just drifting through our life, because these are people who kind of allow themselves to be influenced, to be controlled. They tend to accept whatever life throws their way. They don't make up a protest or put up a fight when things are not going their way. They don't necessarily know what they want, and they spend all their time getting just that, nothing that they actually want, because they don't know what they want. So you can imagine a drifter is someone who's just coasting through life thinking that this is the way it's always going to be. They've never mapped out their version of what I call their most visionary life, because they've never stopped and thought, well, do I have to work a full-time job? Do I have to live in this city? Do I have to follow a certain societal milestone in order to, live this way? And maybe they've been drifting. And the comparison that the host of this podcast was saying was that this time of coronavirus is actually a chance for the drifters to be forced out of their schedule, to be forced away from drifting through a job they don't love. Maybe they're going to be pulled away from their home because they can no longer afford it. Maybe they're going to be pulled away from the people that they were surrounding themselves with over the past, 5, 10, 20 years that they didn't actually like hanging out with. And so this time is such a gift because it may pull you out of that daze, that drifting pattern. And so no matter what, I don't want to discount anyone's situation because these are challenging times for everyone, but the gift is actually being pulled out of that drifting routine and having an opportunity to really take that 1,000-foot bird's eye view at everything and go, what am I doing? Do I actually want to, live my life on this type of routine or in this home or doing these types of workouts? This can really be challenged in every which way. And so another concept I've really been thinking about lately is this idea of a GPS. We all kind of have that inner compass in our life that is pointed one way and that's where you're going, right? And not often do we stop and think, where do I want my GPS to go, right? You programmed a destination, or maybe your parents programmed a destination for you, or maybe your grandparents programmed a destination for you, but did you program that destination? This is the time to maybe pause and stop. And if we can pull one gift out of this time at home, perhaps it's more reflection. Perhaps it's time to see, where do you want to grow? Do you want to take a new course, learn the culinary arts? Do you want to grow in your skills as a designer? Do you want to grow your relationship? What is it that you want to grow? So that's the G of GPS. Where do you want to pivot? Okay. For some of you, you may have lost work in the last 2 weeks. And perhaps what's on your heart is that it's time to totally pivot and you are ready for that. Or maybe you've had a sugar addiction for the last 10 years and you realize this is the time to pivot, ditch all the sugar from the house and just make that drastic change. Okay, so I want you to think about where you want to grow, where you want to pivot, and what do you want to save? What about this time is going so well for you? Maybe it's more family time. Maybe it's less aggressive workouts. Maybe it's that you're getting up and instead of working on your full-time job, you're actually spending like an hour creating your own business and you love that routine. What else do you want to save from this time? So again, in addition to choosing your word, I would also love you to go through this GPS activity. Where do you need to grow right now? Where do you need to pivot? And what do you really want to save out of this time? Personally, I am using this time to challenge everything, not only because I'm a business owner and I kind of have to evolve with the times, or like they say, evolve or die. But I'm trying to really just think outside of the traditional structure, right? Really from start to finish of my day, I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm doing it a little differently than I normally would. Do I like this? Is there a better way? Is this something that I want to hang on to? Do I still want my office, which is down the road, or do I love working from home, right? There's so much to think about. And for all of you, I think this is the best time to really understand and imagine on a deeper level, what makes up your most visionary life? What do you want to hang on to? And what is it time to let go of? This is also such a wonderful time to experiment with things, right? We're all stuck in our home. We're going stir crazy. And this is almost like, I see it as a free for all. And the way I've really seen people step into this whole like mad scientist thing is people who were used to doing their businesses in person and are now forced to do them online. And they're forced to experiment, and they're like, oh, I guess I should use Instagram now. And why don't I throw out my first video? Let's see how that goes. But this can apply to really anything that you're doing at this moment. It's kind of a free-for-all. We're stuck in our homes. My friends and I were on a Zoom call last night, just catching up, and we were all saying, we got to get on TikTok. Like, this is the time to be posting ridiculously silly videos on TikTok because viewership is high. You could probably go viral really quickly. And, you know, why not? Like, people aren't going to penalize you for being silly on TikTok right now because it's a time to experiment. So ask yourself, what's one thing that you've kind of wanted to do, but you just haven't gotten around to, and perhaps can slot it into the next week or two? I want you guys to experiment. So business owner or not, like, let's have fun with this time. Let's make it a science experiment and see what we can do with our creative energy. This is definitely a time for all of us to simply explore a new way of being. And I know it's really hard adjusting to these new normals for however long they last, but we want to see it as an opportunity rather than a challenge or as a setback, right? It's simply an opportunity to shift our way of being. I was asking people in the past few days what they felt like they needed more of in this time of coronavirus. And the words that I kept getting back were things like leadership and support and direction and confidence and love. And I feel like a lot of that comes through things like this, just the community, right? Like getting on a Facebook Live with people who you know, or organizing Zoom calls with your community or with your colleagues or whoever it is, with your family. This is the time to gather and to really use it as a chance to go deeper on your relationships. And I want to actually bring Shannon on because when I posted this question on my Facebook of describe your last week in one word, she just had the most excited response around how she's normally an introvert, but has been feeling this ecstatic feeling of community. And I loved the energy that was radiating from her. So Shannon, do you want to just come on and quickly explain kind of why you answered the way you did and what community initiatives you've been part of and how you've been fostering that in the past few days?
Fabulous. Thank you for welcoming on. And hello, everybody. Yeah, I was really inspired by your question. And I'll be honest, I read through some of the others and I was like, oh, I had a little bit of compare-itis, like, crap, am I not feeling the right way? I'm feeling really connected. And I chose that word because I'm an introvert and I've just recently closed a brick and mortar yoga studio. And I really thought that I wanted to use this time to hide, do the normal Shannon thing. So I'm really resonating with that analogy that you are throwing out to us as the GPS. How do you really want to use this time? And because I've been having the same internal dialogue with myself. And, instead of doing my usual, I'm going to hide, I'm, licking my wounds. I've been looking for opportunities just like this, to get connected, to be a part of the conversation, to offer this part of me that I know exists inside of love, of light, of caring, of just wanting to connect. I don't have to leave my house. And I get to connect with people like this. Like, this is a perfect opportunity for an introvert like me to sit here in my yoga clothes and create these types of connections. And it's been happening very organically. Someone I haven't spoken to, I would say, like, spoken like this, yeah, we do like a little, oh yeah, cute Instagram, whatever, but actually had a conversation with, and probably a year and a half, we had our first Zoom date just like this yesterday, a coffee date, and I got off that Zoom feeling like $1,000,000
Yeah.
and feeling connected. Like, my heart had reached out to hers to mine, and this sense of community just started to build within me. So when you reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to be a part of this, yeah, okay, we maybe don't want to be involved in all the conversations that are going on, but the ones that really inspire you and get really deep into that hell yes space, I'm challenging everyone to, reach outside of themselves and get connected, build your community. And I loved that one of your girls, I think it was Erin, I see you there, my sweetheart, her word for the next 7 days was connect. So congratulations, you're already doing it.
I love it. Thank you. And Susan just said you did an awesome 10-minute yoga stretch the other day. Are you hosting these on your Instagram?
Actually, it's my business page, and I also have a wellness group. So I am a yoga teacher. And again, I just wanted to hide. But I'm seeing all my colleagues and yogis all across this globe, step up. And I'm like, Shan, this is not the time to become a hermit and be afraid. It's time to, lend this love, this talent, this raw thing that's inside of me to my community. So yeah, we're doing some fun things there as well.
You're in that mad scientist phase, right? It's like, who knows if you want to get on this many Zoom calls for the rest of time, but right now, why the heck not, right? And of course, finding that balance between your introvert side and forcing yourself to grow and evolve and pivot. But I just think that's super inspiring, and kudos to you for getting out of your comfort zone. And thank you for sharing the power that you've experienced through community and getting on Zoom calls with friends you hadn't talked to in a while. That's what I think we can all experiment with right now. And, it doesn't have to last forever, but we're kind of shifting in the way we interact just in this time period. So it's very cool to hear your experience. So thank you.
Thank you.
Would you post maybe your Instagram or where people can find you in the chat box? Because I know our community loves to connect with each other and support one another. So maybe you can just leave details of where people can find you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Shannon. Another thing that I feel like can certainly resonate with all of us right now is re-examining our finances, the cash money. And I've been very lucky to know an amazing human being, Melissa Houston. We met back in November and worked together for the last 4 months or so as she launched her business. And Melissa is a money expert, personal finance coach. And I did record a podcast with her, which is coming very, very soon to the Visionary Life podcast. You can stay tuned for that. But I really wanted to bring Melissa on because she has so much wisdom in having a plan in this time of crisis when it comes to managing your money. And she was sharing with me yesterday this kind of ladder exercise of, if you are feeling that money crunch right now, what your priorities need to be. And I just thought it would be so applicable to share it with you all. So Melissa, if you want to unmute yourself, I would love to welcome you to the stage. And if people want to type in the chat box as Melissa talks, then please go for it.
Hey, everybody. Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, we're good.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. Thank you. So did you want me to go through the sort of what we talked about yesterday with the priorities of your finances and stuff?
I think, yeah, let's start there and then we'll see what conversations come after that.
Okay. So if any of you are feeling the financial crunch right now, I really sympathize, and I'm really sorry to hear that your businesses are being affected by this. First and foremost, if you have your health, that's what I'm saying to all my clients. If we have our health, it's the most important thing, our health and the health of our loved ones. Now, the underlying crisis obviously is the economic crisis, and that's hitting a lot of us financially. So what I'm going through and suggesting for people who have a sudden loss of income and you have bills to pay and you might feel a sense of panic is, first of all, take a deep breath. There are a lot of programs out there so far, and I think every day more and more programs are being released to help people in these situations, and everything will be okay. It's just putting your plan together and actioning it, and through that action, you'll probably feel a sense of control and relief. So the first thing I would take care of if I was in that situation is the priority is food and medication, first and foremost. Ensuring that you're healthy, have money for your groceries, have money for your medication. There are ways to save on groceries, but make sure that you're meeting your minimum requirements there. The second priority would be either your rent or mortgage payments. And that goes for small businesses as well, because I understand there's quite a few of you that have small businesses here. And if you're going to have a problem meeting your rent or your mortgage payments, the first thing is the mortgage payments. There's the 6 big banks are supposed to be having this mortgage default program. I've heard varying responses from people who've applied for the program and how the banks are serving them. I think in the beginning it was a lot more frustrating than it is today. So all you can do at this point is contact your bank and talk about your financial situation, let them know where you stand, and work out an arrangement. Do keep in mind, though, that if you are deferring your payments, they're not putting a hold on your interest. So you're still being charged interest. So if you can even make a portion of your mortgage payments, at the very least, to cover your interest, that would be advisable. So then for rent, contact your landlord immediately, talk about a solution. I feel as though landlords are definitely in the position where they want to negotiate. They don't want to be losing good tenants, and they'll basically work with you because ultimately their interest is getting money as well. So they're going to understand that, this is a time where, there's a little bit of uncertainty, but it will come. And then up there with your mortgage and your rent would be your utility bills as well. Now, I've heard that there's all sorts of programs. I'm from Ottawa, so I'm not sure where everybody's from, but I believe most of you are in the Toronto region. So I would suggest contacting your utility providers and seeing if they have some sort of program in place. I know for us, Ottawa Hydro and our water bills, and maybe Enbridge, I'm not sure about Enbridge though, they have payment deferral programs. So they're offering some easement on that. And for the city of Ottawa, we have our property taxes due on a biannual basis, and the latest round was March. So if you're not paying into your property taxes with your mortgage, for us, they've extended the deadline. So we've got till, I can't remember when, and then for the second payment that normally comes in June, they've extended to October. So there's a little bit of relief there. So for all your bills that are due, you'll have to deal with them on a lender by lender basis or utility provider and work out some sort of plan. And one thing I caution for is do not miss a payment without contacting your lending provider, because if you do miss a payment without negotiating terms, it will affect your credit score. And your credit score, really, it's important to keep it healthy in these times of uncertainty. So that is one of the big tips I have for you. And then, you're going down the list, you'd be dealing with car loans and any other type of loans that you have out there. Yet again, contact your lender, see if you can negotiate new terms. And I'm sure a lot of you are aware that CRA for personal taxes, they've extended the deadline. And if you owe money for your personal side, they've extended payment deadline to August 31st. So I would suggest taking advantage of that. If you have a refund due to you, I would suggest getting your tax return in as quickly as possible so then you get that little bit of cash flow going. The government has also announced quite a few programs. I'm sure at this point you've heard of the CERP program that was announced yesterday, where everybody who qualifies gets $2,000 per month for 4 months. And that does include self-employed people. So I encourage you to apply for that program. There's a website link. I know I sent it to Kelsey yesterday. I don't know if we can share it with everybody, but there's a place on the Department of Finance website, and you can go there and see a list of absolutely every program that they've put in place for the COVID, and see how it applies to you on a personal level or on a business level. Some things that are not mentioned on that website is I did hear that BDC is offering an initiative program for small businesses. And I've also heard that banks are offering some small business relief as well. So contact your banking provider and see what they have out there for you. There's the temporary wage subsidy program, the small business loans, and the flexible tax filing deadlines for small businesses as well. I'm not really impressed with what the government's done for small businesses. I don't feel like they've done enough. So I'm hoping that they're going to get a lot of pressure from that in the next few days, and they'll come up with some more programs. And the best way you can keep informed is keep checking that Department of Canada finance website. Also, the Ontario government announced today that, maybe it wasn't today, sorry, my days are getting all mixed up now. Yep. There is, there's oh, I can't remember what they're calling it, and I don't think I wrote it down. Yeah, there's that relief program that they have for kids that are under 12 years old. I think they're offering $200 a month per child under the age of 200. And then for the Canada Child Benefit Tax Credit, they're increasing that as well. So you can look into that. Oh, and one thing I really wanted to share with you guys, this is super important, is if you're carrying a credit card balance, which I hope you're not doing because I don't encourage that whatsoever, but if you are, and you're worried about your payments, I've heard that the federal government is trying to negotiate with the big banks to get those interest rates pushed down during this time. So that would be a little bit of relief as well.
Amazing. So many good
questions?
Yeah, if you do have any questions for Melissa, type them in the chat box and we'll definitely come back to them after. And then Melissa, if you want to grab any of those links and put them in the chat box too, or I can send them out after.
No, I can do that right now because I had it up on my computer.
Awesome. Yeah, so many will be applicable, and I don't know how many people have started filling out those applications already, but I know it's just one more thing to add to your plate during this time. So thank you so much, Melissa. If you can also link your website and your Facebook Badass Money Managers group in the chat box, I think that would be so awesome because we can learn a lot from you, and you are like the leader of the news in the finance world right now. So you're my trusted source.
Changing constantly, so I'm trying to be as updated as possible.
Absolutely. And one thing too for everybody on the call that I've been thinking a lot about over the past few days is obviously where can we cut back in expenses? And I think this is something not only to do during a crisis, but probably on a quarterly basis to look through your statements and just say, like, is this a necessary expense? Do I need to be part of every TV subscription service? What can I eliminate? And then also, if you feel that something you're spending money on towards your business or your life is an investment rather than an expense, I don't know if Melissa's going to agree with me, but some things that I spend money on a monthly basis, they are truly investments to me. And so I'm not just cutting everything irrationally. Like, I spend money on a business mastermind program that I find value in it. So yes, that's an expense to my business, but I do see that more as an investment that is going to continue to produce returns for me. So I'm kind of going through my statements just with that critical mindset of what is actually an expense that I can eliminate for this time being.
And just to add on to your comment there, Kelsey, is regardless of whether it's your personal finances or your business finances, I highly suggest having a budget in place. If you're not using a budget, you don't have a plan, and you're not going to have a solid direction for yourself financially. So whether it's for your individual needs or for your business needs.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing I wanted to point out too, I think in this time of need, is really stressing the cutting back your expenses and holding on to your cash as much as you possibly can. Reel in those expenses right now, because I know everything's going to be okay. We just don't know when. And in the meantime, make sure that you've got the cash that you need to get you through these next couple of months.
Mm-hmm. So don't go buy the Peloton bike that I wanted.
Do not buy that. No.
I'm just kidding. I know Melissa and I were laughing yesterday that Fitness Depot had lineups of people buying treadmills and spin bikes and all that. So crazy. But I mean, hey, great tool if you do have the cash flow right now. So thank you, Melissa. I really appreciate you taking the time today to chat with everybody.
Well, thank you.
Okay, so we're going to keep going here. I think we've got, about 15 more minutes. So if you're able to stick with me, I'm going to pivot into chatting more to small business owners and anyone who maybe aspires to start a business or launch a community initiative in this time. I want to address just a few things that might be really applicable and helpful to you if you've been feeling just a little bit of heaviness in this time. So yes, we may all need to, as a collective, step back and change our direction a little bit. But guys, there is still so much opportunity for you to succeed and for you to build momentum and to share your gifts and be of service to what the world needs right now, okay? And yes, that might look different than what the world needed 2 weeks ago, but there's still such opportunity to, again, deliver what people are in need of in this moment. So I want to take you through just a couple of questions to ask yourself in this time. So number one, what does your business do? But what does it really do? Okay. So for example, you may identify as a public speaker on the topic of mastering your mindset. Okay, so you think your business is a public speaking and an events business, and for all of you, this statement's going to look different. But when you ask yourself, what do I really do? And you go that level deeper, and this is the time to re-examine this. Well, what you really do, you're not a public speaker and a master of events. You are someone who delivers the tools to people so that they can master their mindset in times of crisis, for example, okay? And the way in which you can do that is infinite. Yes, public speaking or delivering workshops is one way that you deliver that underlying vision, but the means of how we deliver our service as business owners is always going to be changing, okay? Community and vision needs to come first. Your product and your offer can come second, okay? Because that is going to change with the times. That's going to change with the demand. So this is a great time to reconnect with your vision. What do you really do? I help change makers, I help visionaries build an online business, okay? I don't say that I do that through coaching, or I do that through teaching workshops, or I do that by teaching workshops in Toronto, because that is going to continue to evolve and evolve and evolve. And if I'm not willing to pivot and evolve, then my business is going to fall flat eventually. So ask yourself, okay, well, what do I think I do? But what do I really do? And that comes back to what your greater vision is and in that deeper why. So this is a really good time to challenge that. And if you do see a chance to adapt your offer, maybe you've recently closed a brick and mortar business, maybe you've been forced to bring your business online, this is the time to adapt, to launch something new really quickly. Okay, it doesn't have to be perfect. We're all in mad scientist phase right now, and change later. So I wrote out adapt now, launch fast, change later. Okay. People are pulling programs and webinars and masterclasses and Instagram TVs just out of thin air right now because they have to, right? I was reading about a business that they were creating an app, and it was for fine dining restaurants to do takeout experience. And of course, for the most part, people want to go dine in for a fine dining, right? But this was the first app to really say, okay, well, we want to deliver that at-home experience and that takeout experience for fine dining restaurants. It had been in the works for 3 years, the founder was saying. But as soon as Corona hit, and as soon as he saw what was happening in Italy, no restaurants were open. He was like, this is coming to the US in probably the next few days. They did what he says, a year's worth of work in 7 days with a small team of people. They launched that app, and it is live right now. It has hundreds and hundreds of fine dining restaurants, some of them right here where I am in Toronto, who are now using this service. And without it, they probably would have half of the business they have during this pandemic, okay? So it's incredible what that little bit of pressure can do if you're feeling that, oh my gosh, like how am I gonna make money? How do I change? How do I evolve? Do it quick, okay? Be the person who does a week's worth of work in a day, a month's worth of work in a week, a year's worth of work in a month, okay? Get your head down. If you have an idea of how you need to change, to pivot, to evolve, let's get going, okay? You've probably seen how quickly a lot of the fitness facilities in the world have taken their business online. It's truly incredible. On that note too, it's vital to know what is your crisis messaging. And so what I mean by this is that your messaging for your business 2 weeks ago is not at all relevant to what it needs to be today, okay? So somebody who's a interior designer who sells virtual design packages, like where they make over your living room from afar, 2 weeks ago, their Facebook ad might have read something like, do you hate coming home to a cluttered family room? The kids have been out all day, but the moment they walk in, it's a catastrophe. That doesn't work right now. Right now, crisis messaging is, are you starting to go crazy with how unorganized your home office is? And you know that with a few simple tweaks, you could have a space that you are able to spend 8 hours a day in. Talk to people where they are now, right? If you're a nutritionist, your crisis messaging might be, do you need to cook up a healthy meal for your family with few ingredients in the fridge? Whereas 2 weeks ago, it was, I've got easy recipes that you can make as soon as you get off work. Like it's just totally different. So please take some time to understand what your crisis messaging is. If community is part of your business, saying something like, now more than ever, you want to join a group coaching program because we're really lacking that connection to one another, right? So use the times, don't take advantage of them, don't abuse what's going on. But what we need to hear right now is different than what we needed 2 weeks ago. So scrap your marketing plan and talk to people where they are right now. That's what's going to be most successful, okay? I saw another example of a restaurant. They were, normally they deliver or they cook up plated meals for people, like your typical pub joint, right? And they were going to have to be forced to close. And they're like, well, how are we going to keep people employed? How are we going to keep this business afloat? And they thought, well, what do people need in crisis when their kids are home all day? They don't have much time to cook because they're still working full time remotely. Well, they need family style one pot meals that they can flip into the oven in 20 minutes that are dropped to their doorstep in a very, sanitary way. And so they scrapped their whole menu, and now they're just doing like full-size meatloafs, big vats of mashed potatoes. Like, this is the pivot that needs to happen. You want to be forward thinking and establishing your crisis messaging. How can you serve in this time? Okay. So really think about how that needs to change. People are not just looking for general wellness practitioners, perhaps right now, but they are looking for someone to keep their mental sanity when you can't leave the home, or, you know, whatever it is. So I'm just going to throw a bunch of ideas out there, but your messaging now is different. So really challenge yourself as you're posting on social media, as you're crafting emails. Are you speaking with the time that we're in? Are you chatting to the conversation in everybody's head? And one more question, just how can you keep doing what you're doing just differently? Okay. Whether that's going from an in-person business to online, or offering something, a version, an iteration of your program that simply speaks to what's going on in the world right now. Like Michael Hyatt, you may have seen, he's an incredible leadership guru. He always teaches a program on leadership for high-level managers. What I'm pretty sure he has done in the past 7 days is simply change the title. It's called Leading Through Crisis. It's the same content. It's the same price. He just changed the title. He's still delivering the same material. You can all do that too, okay? So all we're doing is changing the messaging or adding small tweaks. I teach a workshop called Building a Brand That Stands Out, and I'm forced to bring that workshop online right now. I usually teach it through Toronto. Now I'm essentially just teaching how to build your brand online in a time where everyone else is doing it. It's the same material, but I'm adapting the title and I'm adapting the headers of the content just to speak to this, you know, turbulent time of, well, now everybody's bringing their brand online. How do you stand out? It's the same content, but I'm speaking with the times, okay? More than ever, I do truly believe that innovation is born in crisis. I've been told that Uber was actually born through some sort of crisis. I don't know if anyone knows the story of that, but this is when change happens. This is when those big needed leaps in our businesses are very possible. And so I want you to be the visionaries and the innovators who make it happen. This is that app. If you are looking to purchase fine dining, it's called Talks. You can go to exploretalk.com. There's probably restaurants in your area. And then I just pulled this fun example. It's a bar that had to shut down. It's called Lost Lake. And instead of having patrons come into the bar and grab beers and grab cocktails and that, they decided for a small donation, they would send out a twice weekly newsletter. It would give you at-home cocktail recipes. It would give you a fun crossword puzzle. It would give you recipes to make with the cocktail. So again, like if you are feeling like you're struggling in this time, try to get creative, try to get innovative. We want to support you. So use this community, use any platform or partnership that you've already established. We're all here for you. We want to support one another. I've heard great stories of people pre-buying their next 10 haircuts so that their hair salon can stay in business. You know, there's so much opportunity to really rally around one another. So that is it. I'm gonna stay on for a little bit if anyone does have any questions or comments, and feel free to either type in the chat box that you have a question, or you can simply unmute yourself. And love to hear from you. But if you do have to go, no problem, but we still have a few more minutes. So I'll leave it open to questions.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please do.
Shannon put it forward and I really, really like it. She was asking what you thought of all the free stuff that's going around.
Yeah, so that's a really great question. I've seen so many people rise up and finally share their first free thing, and that excites me. But I've also seen a lot of people basically take the price tag off of their services and their offer. And I don't actually think that helps the economy in any way. We need you to stay in business as an entrepreneur. So if you're giving everything away for free indefinitely, I'm not sure that that is supportive of keeping your business afloat. I do really enjoy the idea of offering discounts, promotions, being respectful of the times, offering payment plans rather than a lump sum. For me, I'm getting rid of interest on any new client who goes on a 12-month payment plan. I usually charge interest. I'm not charging that right now. So I'm really trying to mitigate some of the barriers. But my opinion on giving all free stuff, I don't think that helps you stay in business and do what you love and be compensated. So there's got to be a balance. Give away free stuff like you used to, be generous like you used to, but please keep your price tag on your services because we want to see you succeed. Yeah.
I have something to say.
Yes, please.
Sorry, I keep just getting the video because Eve just keeps running around and that would just
No
be
worries.
distracting. Or eating stickers. So that's the thing. I think you answered it a little bit, but that's what's so hard is like, so doing like anything fitness wise, for example, on online is kind of shit because you have people like the Tone It Up girls and like all of the beach bodies and all of like those kind of like big programs that like typically cost quite a bit are at least for 2 weeks free, you know, if not more. And of course, 2 weeks free and then people are hooked and want more or whatever. But that really like puts a wrench in it for the people that like aren't already though at that level where like you can offer something for free. Like it's because you don't want to take advantage of people. Like I'm the last person to want to do that, but obviously as a chiropractor, I'm not really working that much unless it's emergency. And even that, like I don't even want to, it's funny because it's not even just, hey, I need to make something doing what I can offer. But when it comes to emergency services, I don't even want to charge for that because I know that people are having like a shit go of it. And you want to help out, but at the same time you're like, but I need some too, you know, like it's sort of a catch-22. I don't even know what my question is. It's mostly just like, how can you not offer something for free when bigger companies are offering it for free? It's like, why would somebody ask you for your help, you know?
Definitely. And I mean, it's tough. It really is a subjective thing of like what we feel is best in this moment. But I know that for all of you, there are still people who value your service at a certain price tag, and they will make it a priority to pay you at least in some way, shape, or form for your time because they want to see you be able to continue. And one thing that I would offer for anyone who does feel like they need to reduce price or make things free right now, why not try out the barter system? Okay. So if you're going to give someone a service for free, say, I've taken the price tag off because I understand cash flow is limited, but is there a way for us to barter? Like, for example, if they're a graphic designer, can they make a logo for you? Or if they will have a daycare, like, can they give you free babysitting hours for when this whole COVID thing is over? And there's some amazing platforms that are doing incredibly well over the past 2 weeks. Barter pay is one of them. This is kind of the new way, is to seek out people who have what you want, and if possible, do an exchange of services in times like these. So might be a possibility too, if you do feel like you still want to be compensated for your time, but you can't necessarily just keep working for free. So it's an option, but there's no right answer. It's the same with when we all price our services. If you have had the luxury of being able to price your own service, there's no pricing police that tell you that's too high, that's too low. You really just have to read your audience and stay true to what you feel your value that you deliver is. But thanks for sharing that, Elka. Scrolling through the comments here. Got lots of examples of studios putting their classes either free or for a low live virtual price right now. Love it. Peloton, yoga. Anybody else? Questions, feelings, any, if you need to work through a problem you're currently facing, hit a roadblock over the past few days?
Thanks, Kelsey, for hosting this. This has been really great and really resonates a lot on over here. And I thought it was really helpful to talk about the discounting piece, because I know usually, like, that's not honestly something that I've been struggling with a lot, because I mean, I'm very fortunate and grateful to have a full-time job that allows me to work from home right now. But I also still have my side business, and that's something I've been struggling a lot with, because, I had the rate that I charge. I usually charge at that rate to, because, as a tarot reader and a Reiki master, sometimes, especially on the tarot side, you can get people who they just want a really cheap free reading, and they don't actually care about what you say. They just want to hear what they want to hear. And so
Right.
it's something that I've struggled with, because on the one hand, I know how much it can help people, but on the other hand, I have to be very careful about the pricing piece to make sure that the people that I get are genuinely wanting actual guidance and assistance. But at a time like this, my regular rate really may be prohibitive for people. And so I think this is helpful, because it does help me frame how I approach that issue. So so I'm going to do some thinking on that. And I think this really helps to inform me on that. So I really appreciate the candor on that.
You're so welcome. Yeah, thank you for joining. And definitely an interesting opportunity for you, Malyamir, to do some crisis messaging, because I know that your services can be game changers for people, especially in turbulent times. So of course there's that fine line, but switching up how you share your services right now, I think could be really helpful, so that some people can learn more about tarot and learn more about Reiki EFT. So yeah, let me know.
And I think even switching up my model a bit for now, or like, because normally I only offer hour-long services, but for some people, if they're really, really stuck on something, they really want guidance, perhaps I can explore discounting my rate a bit out of, respect for the situation, plus having shorter time periods. Maybe it doesn't have to be an hour long. And I say this because maybe this helps others as well. Maybe it's an idea of playing around. Maybe don't offer the full thing that you might usually offer, right? And building on the idea of maybe you're not really changing much of what you're offering. Maybe you just package it a little differently. So maybe if I'm offering 20-minute sessions instead, something like that. So this gives me lots of ideas. So I appreciate it.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And I think, again, crisis languaging, people are strapped for time right now, especially if they have kids at home or, have less financial means. So altering your packages, brilliant idea. So thank you for sharing. All right. Well, I'm going to wrap it up here out of respect for time. So thank you guys all for joining. Really appreciate getting this conversation going. And I will definitely be hosting one of these next week as well, bringing on another guest expert. So thank you to Melissa, to Shannon, and to everyone else who joined. So go check their services out if you're interested. And I'll follow up if there's a time slot that I have chosen for next week. So thank you. Thinking of you all, love you all, and we'll chat soon, okay?